Welcome back. We're still talking climate change, COP23, and the Nigerian environment, and we have the three environmental experts in the studio. So, Shola, before we went on that break, I said we're going to look at that statement by the minister where he said this robust plan is going to bring results in
agriculture,
renewable energy, low carbon emission, agriculture, sustainable agricultural practices, and all of that. But across the country, we still have forests being depleted. We still have trees being cut down. I mean, someone actually sent me a message about 10 containers of rosewood found in China, held in China. Nigeria, I think the papers...
From Nigeria.
From Nigeria. The papers were submitted later on and all, but the wood came from Nigeria. In the face of that, how do we weigh that against a robust plan to ensure a sustainable environment?
I think somebody got it wrong somehow. When we attend international meetings, we always try to, have a very nice document to present. It's just what people do, so to say. Unfortunately, we also do the same thing in Nigeria. But the main problem here is this. If you look, one of the documents proposed by UNDP a number of years ago shows that Nigeria has the highest rate of deforestation anywhere you can think about in the world. You understand? Why? Because we just cut it. Yes, the ministry has a plan. They talk about this plan, but sometimes it doesn't go beyond the four walls of the ministry. That's just one thing. Ministry of Environment, they have people that have their duties, what should be done. Water resources, they have their own, what should be done. Agriculture, they have, when this ministry do not work together, when there is no synergy between or among this ministry, things will not work. So, in Bonn, we made a declaration of robust plan. Like you asked earlier, is it just a plan on paper, or we have items, projects, programs on ground? Well, only those who work in the ministry can answer that question. But then, the only way it's going to work is to stop the deforestation. But then, how do you stop deforestation when more than 60% of Nigeria depend on wood fuel to cook in villages? So you cannot stop my father, is dead now, to stop cutting wood when it doesn't have any...
What to use to cook.
So it is not just to talk about it, it's action. You just have to do something.
But beyond your father, God bless his soul, using wood to cook,
yes,
there are those who are cutting the wood,
yes,
to export for furniture.
Right, that is
Is it the local farmer or the rural dweller that's doing that?
That is a different question entirely. I don't want to talk about politics. You understand? So I just want to stay within the realm of ordinary people, poor people, needs to use this as a source of energy. Then this other side, the container you mentioned that was, spotted in China, it's a different case entirely. I traveled from this part of Nigeria. Well, those in government are the only one who can explain that. But the point is, we are not sincere. We say something else, we do something else. Until we come to the point that actions means action. You say it and you do it. It is then we will be tackling climate change.
So the issue of matching words with action is very important here. Yeah. In that report, we heard that planning the National Climate Change Agency, but I'm thinking even the NEMET that we have, the Meteorology Agency, how well are they doing right now to be able to tell us, okay, these are the things going on, this is how we can, address the issues, this is the way to go?
Thank you. I think we don't really appreciate the enormity of the problem at hand. You have to look for best practices around the world in order to understand what we are supposed to do.
Correct. Yeah.
The issue here is beyond Ministry of Environment, acting in solo, or the Ministry or NIMET. It's beyond that. It's a collective government issue. Let's take the Arab example. The Arab countries have taken up an agenda to do massive infrastructure, divest gradually away from the same fossil fuel that we are all dependent on, because they've seen the future. Look, very soon, fossil fuel will be a thing of the past. We have to understand it. And if that is going to happen, what is our economy going to be based on? Apart from writing action plans and policies, what really are we going to depend on as a people? They have looked at it and said, okay, first of all, we need massive infrastructural development, and they are doing that. They want to improve on tourism for their coming into their country. They believe a substantial amount of the GDP can come from tourism. Now even Saudi Arabia is going into low carbon economy. We are still here talking about what we will write and what policies we are going to put in place. And corruption is still going on everywhere. Instead of us to look at the issue facing us, grab it and do all we are supposed to do to make our country a better country while we wait for what is coming. Nigeria without fuel resources is going to have major challenges. Environmental issues will be there. There will be massive poverty. There will be a lot of things that we have to consider. It is beyond the minister. Whoever is the president of the country must sit down now, look at best practices around the world, and say, this is the path we are going to take. And we have to do it now. No. We are 25 years behind, and we have to start now. And we have not even started.
Okay. So while we're waiting for the government, we are running out of time. Indeed, we're out of time. So while we're waiting for the government to get that robust
where
plan
do we start from?
And begin to do, let's look at where do we start from the you and I.
Yeah.
You know, I do a program that talks about what each person is doing. So from the you and I, what do we do here and now while we're waiting for government?
In fact, for you, I'm surprised you're not wearing green suits. Well, you know, like everything starts, it starts in the mind. And the heart actually influences the mind. There's a whole technology of the heart. We'll go into that in another program. It's incredible. So it starts in the mind. We have to get it into our minds that we are stewards of this creation. We're a very religious country. If we're not Christian, we're Muslim. And then a tiny little percent might be some other religion. And in both those religions, it is extremely clear. The one I'm familiar with is the Christian Bible, which in Genesis 2:15 says he put the man in the garden to care for and to keep it. This garden is our life support system. But, and this is what we need to get into our heads, is that it's not only our life support system, but it's our children's life support system, which we are holding in care for them, which we must hand over to them. Some of us a little sooner than others, but we're all going to pass it on to the kids. So we better take care of it. And I think the first thing we need to get into our heads is be very, very careful, because there's a law of retribution. If you don't want to do it for your children, do it for the safety of your own soul. I've been a farmer for 35 years. I've been planting coconut trees, and I've never seen a mango come out of my coconut tree. Whatever seed you sow, you shall surely reap. If you don't reap it in this world, you reap it in the next. So sow good seed, look after the environment, do something good, have green in your home at least.
Shola?
Yeah, for me, I take the SDG as a starting point personally. I have picked SDG 14, ocean governance, as the basis. I need to take it to the schools, start from a primary school, secondary school. I have friends in university. This is the best way I can start. I can navigate, I can art in my own way.
In your home?
Yeah, in my own way.
You don't have an ocean in your home?
I don't have an ocean in my home. I have a content of the gray matter in my head. So I can start with this. Of course, I manage water in my house. I make sure that lights are switched off in order to reduce not only the bill for electricity, but...
And possibly minimize driving as well.
Yeah, so this is the basic things I can do, and then things will change, so to say.
Prof.
Well, whatever we can do to limit the amount of fossil fuel we are burning will help a long way. Like you mentioned, if you can walk a bit up, to the office, you do it. At least it's your own small contribution. But if a lot of us are doing it, then you can imagine the enormity of what we are all doing together. We must consider most of the actions we take on a daily basis. When we look at the actions we take, must you really do this in this particular manner? Once we begin to look at alternatives, then we are definitely going to be contributing our own sector as individuals. But there's a lot to be done as institutions. There's a lot to be done for the government and the business people. There's a lot everybody can do. So everybody must chip their little bit here and there.
Thank you very much, Professor Adebayo Otitoloji, Professor of Environmental Toxicology, Mr. Desmond Majikodumi, environmental activist, and Shola Adeoye, environmental conflict expert. Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
Sunrise will be back in a moment. Please don't go away.